Welcome everybody to Forza Motorsport 7, and today we're taking a look at the 1955 Chevrolet 150 utility sedan. Now this was conceived as a fleet model and envisioned as a no-frills transportation device that was built between 1953 and 1957. And yeah, quite a landmark car for a Chevrolet, quite frankly, because not only was this a new chassis that eventually, transformed into other cars like the Bel Air from 2 years later that is also in this game, but also was the first vehicle to have the small block V8 that Chevrolet used in several vehicles in the following years. So yeah, it's got the 4.3 litre V8 engine with 180 horsepower and 260 pounds-feet of torque, which I know doesn't sound all that much, but this was a basic car, and like I said, it was no frills, and even this 180 horsepower version was an option. The standard V8 only had 163, so even though it was a no-frills transportation device, it still had a little bit of extras here and there, but options in general were very limited. Even ashtrays, cigarette lighters and mirrors were options on the car, so that just kind of shows how basic this car is. And you can see that as well with the very limited amount of chrome compared to the likes of the Bel Air, which, like I said, is also on this game from 1957, and yeah, had a hell of a lot more chrome than this. And interior wise, again, very lacking. Wind down windows, a clock, a radio, and a very limited speed gauge there. You only got the speedo, temperature, and gasoline. That's it. So yeah, very limited, but like I said, that's the whole point of the car. It's supposed to be as basic as possible, basic transportation for the masses. And quite frankly, this is probably one of the first, properly quick cars that a lot of people could get their hands on. Yeah, it's not as quick as a Bel Air, but it's still fairly decent in terms of what it can do. And you could actually get more powerful versions in later years that were more powerful than the Bel Air. You could get a 283 horsepower version in 1957, which I imagine was pretty hairy. And this also let a lot of other people get into hot rodding as well, because this is a car that a lot of hot rodders have used and continue to use, and even the police use this car. So yeah, it was a car for many different kind of people, and yeah, a car that I am glad is actually on the game, because I like my more regular vehicles on a game like this. But nonetheless, let's take it out onto the track and see what this vehicle is capable of. Right, we're at Road Atlanta, short circuit for a couple of laps. Let's see what this Chevy is made of. Now, obviously, it's not as quick as the Bel Air from 1957. Like I have said, that car has more power and is generally a little bit faster. But then again, it is 2 years older and is the more upmarket version. But like I said again, you could also get an even more powerful version of this car with 103 extra horsepower, so which would have easily beaten that Bel Air. Easily, because yeah, even though that car has 40 horsepower and 40 more pounds-feet of torque than this, that is 60 odd horsepower less than the more powerful version of this. So yeah, I can imagine that being a fairly hairy vehicle to drive. This car itself is still pretty fun. I really do like my more regular vehicles on games like this, and quite frankly we don't have enough of them, and because it's just interesting as a guy from the UK to see what or oh dear, there's a little bit of a flaw in the handling there. But yeah, like I was saying, it's interesting from a British perspective to see what more regular Americans and more regular American cars were like. Because I've never seen one of these in real life. Never heard of this before this car pack came out that this car is included in. So perfectly happy to have this in the game, and I find it fairly fun to drive as well, even though it is a little bit poor on the handling side. It is actually worse in terms of handling than the Bel Air for some reason, despite the fact that this car is actually lighter than that car. But it also has a better gearbox than that Bel Air, 3-speed automatic rather than that woeful 2-speed, so you can get a bit more out of the engine, and that obviously helps take acceleration, which like I said isn't as fast as the Bel Air, but it's fairly decent for a car that has less than 200 horsepower from 1955. 0 to 60 in 9.7 seconds, 0 to 128.920 seconds, going on to a top speed of 125 miles an hour. And that top speed isn't massively off that Bel Air, it's only about 7 or 8 mile an hour off, which is fairly impressive for a car that has 40 horsepower less. So yeah, overall, really do like this car. I know other people have said, why would you like the basic version of a car when there are more powerful and better versions out there, but like I said, I do like my regular versions of cars, and this really is what I've been asking for from Forza games prior, to be honest, where we have, you know, the ability to have an options list with a basic, you know, chassis or model, and then pick from that car list, you know, options list, to pick body style, engine, drivetrain, gearbox, etc. like that, and you know, pick a car from an options list that would have been like a car back in the day. As you know, this would have been able to go alongside the Bel Air and the more upscale 210, and you know, see the differences between all three different vehicles. Nonetheless, I am impressed with this car pack. There are at least 4 vehicles that I really like, that include the Chevy, and then obviously I do quite like the Nissan Safari for being a bit unique, and then those 2 Porsches are fairly decent as well. So overall, this is a really great car pack, highly recommend it, and the Chevy is one of the better cars out of it, quite frankly, and yeah, really pleased it's on the game. Hopefully it's a sign of more classics to come from America or elsewhere, because obviously we did have 2 European classics that are even older than this in this car pack. So yeah, impressive car pack, and yeah, hopefully it's a sign of better things to come. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.